Hello, David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome back. We are here to do a Bond community moment. Now, there are some Bond community moments that I really like, but I have a feeling I'm going to love this one. And I don't use the L word that often, but I know both of these gentlemen very well. First of all, I'd like to welcome James Bond Canada in the form of two individuals, Murray Gillespie and Jeff Wybo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, David.
Thanks so much, David.
All right, listen, we got to get into it right away because everybody in the Bond community, they know your faces, they know James Bond Canada, but just in the off chance that people don't know who you are, I'd like you to introduce yourselves. Murray, why don't we go with you first?
Sure. Well, I am Murray Gillespie, managing editor and founder of James Bond Canada. I've been collecting Bond memorabilia since I was a little kid. I saw my first Bond movie when I was 9, and it's never stopped.
Love it. Jeff?
Yeah, so I would be one of those GoldenEye N64 childs that got this game and then kind of worked his way backwards, finding out that there's so many movies before that. And, you know, picking them up at the Blockbuster Video back then, I always say not knowing my gold fingers from my octopussies and just grabbing one and trying to figure out who these people are in these movies because there wasn't like the internet as well back then to like research this stuff. Oh, then there's books, and I ended up getting some books and started, again, working all the way backwards on the Bond that, you know, potentially you guys had already known all that stuff before. So I had to catch up. I feel sorry for newer Bond fans. They have a lot of catching up to do these days, but that's pretty much what happened. And then I eventually started going on Bond trips and meeting a lot of the community people like yourselves. And that's been my passion in the last so many years. And that's why now I'm with James Bond Canada with Murray.
So I should have explained to everybody, if you have kids at home, we will be talking about fingers and pussies. So, just put them to sleep.
Oh, YouTube's going to censor that one now.
YouTube's going to love that.
Editing. That's fantastic. Gentlemen, we got to talk about James Bond Canada, because what I love about this is it really is an incredible partnership. Murray, you had a germ, you had an idea to do this. Where did this all come from?
Well, I mean, James Bond Canada was never really something that, you know, was a spark. Like, it never just sort of happened. I think in the advent, as Jeff said, you know, in the advent of the internet, I remember being a kid like Jeff and, you know, seeing a Bond movie on the big screen and then suddenly discovering, oh, there were Bond movies made in the 60s. Cool. And then it was off to, like, you know, rent the VHS. And, you know, so much is a backtrack for me. But there used to be a time when, you know, you would call up, let's say, a radio station who was doing a local premiere. And you'd explain to them, look, I'm a big Bond fan. I have a big collection. You know, would I be able to get a pass, let's say, to go to the local premiere? With the advent of the internet and all the sort of, you know, crazies and, you know, the phishing, the stalkers, all those people, you eventually needed something to vet you and to prove to, let's say, a movie studio, a radio station, that you were legit. So James Bond Canada has been around for about 13 years or so in various formats. I mean, even on my local, intranet, I was just posting pictures of my posters or, you know, thought, well, if someone else might find this interesting, I certainly do. And so, you know, the various websites that it's gone from Bond Decor and Design to James Bond Expert to James Bond Canada, I was really lucky to meet Jeff. And Jeff is, you know, he's so engaged with Bond. And from time to time, I would do like a Twitter contest. Hey, do you want to win this poster? Send me your best caption. Answer this question. And Jeff was literally like my number one. Like, he kept just winning everything. It was like, okay, like, you know, obviously this guy knows his 00. So we finally met for the first time in London, not Ontario, where Jeff lives, but London, UK. And I think it was actually quite a sort of, I don't know, fangirl moment for me, because I had never really met another Canadian in my sort of, you know, demographic who enjoyed Bond as much as I do. So Jeff and I finally met at Bond in Motion, the London Film Museum. He was there the same day. And through just talking, meeting his lovely wife, his friends, and talking with other members of the Bond community, we said, well, look, there's James Bond Argentino or James Bond Brazil or the Bond Experience. Why don't we collaborate? Two heads are better than one. Jeff is a generation ahead of me, and it's great to have some young blood in JBC. And so I asked him to join me, and it's been a great partnership ever since. And now we do everything together. So it's pretty great. That's where Bond Canada started for me.
That's perfect. And Jeff, is that how you recall it? I mean, getting pulled into this and a great partnership?
Well, I think we were in London at the time, and I think similar to what Murray was saying about that credibility, you got Anders from Sweden with Love and all these other great Bond community people, and they have that little bit of an identity with their countries or just some niche that they're like yourself with the Bond Experience. And I felt like I had a lot to bring to the table for James Bond fandom in general, so I was happy to partner with Canada, which was self-proclaimed, obviously, by us. Nobody at Eon proclaimed us these experts, but what I say is it's a land grab. It was wide open, so we decided to take it. And so then Murray and I pretty much did. We had the website at the time, but then with my job now being more of a real estate agent in London, Ontario, I started like really getting into the social media side of the Bond stuff, and I've been really enjoying Bond Canada in the last year, 2 years. Because before that, it was just like, okay, we have a Facebook page, and you're waiting around for a movie, and we still haven't had a movie since we started.
Really.
So yeah, it's been that a little bit of an identity, and it's been fun to make some content about James Bond. And like I said, I feel like I have a lot to bring to the table, and I still feel like I have a lot more to bring to the table for James Bond and under James Bond Canada.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you from kind of a quote unquote outsider's standpoint, one of the things I've heard about James Bond Canada, my own observations, is number one, you really do satisfy an incredible coverage of geography. I mean, you are very much a representative of Canada, whether it's your wonderful accents or, doing particular events in the Canadian area. But one of the things I think the partnership works so well because Murray, I see you really understand movie companies, distributorship, production, all those wonderful things. How do marketers speak to each other? Jeff, you brought that marketing acumen, but on top of that, you brought the engagement, the social media, the immersive experiences that people want to drive online. I said about Jeff, and I mean bar none, he has the best live real-time coverage. And I'm talking about out of all the influencers I know. And I try to pride myself on that. I don't hold a candle to this guy. And maybe it's youth, maybe it's experience, but it's just phenomenal. So it adds
I appreciate that. And I love that because Murray doesn't have to copy me. He's got his strengths. I have my strengths. And that's what's great. And like you said, we have such a big country. Murray's out in Vancouver, 3 hours behind us right now while we're doing this call. We're on the East Coast here. And just recently I was in Quebec for a Comic-Con thing for Bond, and those guys are in Montreal, but like that's the first time I can see them. We're not like a German fan club that can all get together on a weekend. Yeah. We're not like the Swiss club that can all get together. We're a big country. It takes a lot of money to fly across our country, and it's not very easy. So the collaborations is very important.
Yeah, Jeff hit on a big point because I'll admit that I'm a little bit of a Luddite, and I've worked in web design and all that kind of stuff. So I liken it to if you're a painter and you paint houses for a living, but you got to paint your own house, it'll probably be 10 years before you get around to it. And with my collection, with our website, with the Facebook page, for me it was more of a, okay, I'm going to post this today because I find this interesting. It was never a follower grab or an Insta moment where I'm like, oh, this is going to get me 5,000 new followers. But when now across our platforms, with our YouTube, our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, and our website, and the things that we do, as we all were just in London for Secret Cinema. So it's great that Jeff and I kind of have a different angle towards Bond, a different generational approach towards Bond, but we are totally synergistic in what we want to offer, the Canadian market and the strengths that we bring to JBC. That's kind of why I was so thrilled when Jeff said he would come on board and be part of it.
Yeah. No, agreed. And it shows. And by the way, I love your authenticity in everything you do. I love influencer marketing when it's not highly polished. For example, right now, Sadie, I believe, is adding some incredible special effects sounds to the video. She's all about the 007 moment.
It's our dog. So.
Oh, is it your dog?
Yes, Sadie's sleeping. So.
Aw. I would have forgiven Sadie, but the dog, how dare you?
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm going to ask some potentially controversial questions because, we don't typically say, hey, who's your favorite James Bond here? We'll tell that over a beer. But let's start with you, Jeff.
Okay.
There are some amazing things in our Bond community, as we call it, wonderful things. There's also some not so great things. So what is your favorite thing about this hobby of ours? And also, what's the thing that really irritates you? And Murray, prepare yourself. We're going to ask you the same thing.
Jeff, I was going to say, Jeff is probably going to say that I irritate him, but then again, I irritate everybody. So that's answer number one.
Well, obviously, the best part to me is I've really enjoyed traveling to the locations and not just like going there and quickly taking a photo, because that's what you kind of see on Instagram or something like that, or used to be on Facebook pages. People would post all their Bond photos, but I like really enjoying the location. Yes, I might quickly Instagram something, but then I put the phone away and I really like take it in a bit and really enjoy it with my friends that are there who are usually Bond fans. So it might be a drink in an area, or it might just be just taking it all in and telling a story there about it, or laughing and joking. So it's all that community friends. I don't need a lot of Aston Martin little toys, but I like all that camaraderie with all the fans. What I haven't liked in the last couple of years is, yes, we're called James Bond Canada, but we're different people, me and Murray, and other people. I'm different than the German club, and I'm different than the Swiss club, and I'm different than the East Coast Americans. And there's a lot of little gossip in the Bond community behind the scenes, and it gets a little annoying because I think we're all just here for James Bond. We're not all perfect. We're from, for example, the Honor Majesty Secret Service 50th anniversary trip. That was, I don't know what it was, 10, 15 countries worth of people that showed up who are all from 20 or something years old to 60, 70, 80 years old. We're going to have different opinions on everything, right? So regardless, and then you stick James Bond as the common denominator, very tough. So anyways, my little plea to the Bond community, just relax, guys. Enjoy the movies. It's just fun. Relax.
I love that. Murray?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I like Jeff. I mean, I've traveled the world, but not to, let's say as many Bond locations. I used to work on a cruise ship, for those people who didn't know. So I've kind of been everywhere. So obviously, Cairo was great. And the first time you go, I think what I enjoy most about it is just making the connections with the people and slowly discovering that, the pieces that I've been collecting for 30, 35 years, now sort of I have a tangible thread to attach it to. I'll talk to one collector about saying, there's this book or this premiere pass from this movie. And they'll say, oh, I've got that. And, oh, I've got that. Have you got this? And it's amazing to see that all these people that you've been wanting to connect with for years and years and years, and you knew were out there, but weren't able to because, now the internet, everyone's everywhere. So, and Jeff brings up another good point. I think what I dislike the most, and I'm not going to use the word internet troll. Wait, did I? The whole idea that, this is supposed to be a pleasurable experience for everyone. And I think that not only does that gossip permeate from the movies itself. We've all seen some very strong opinions recently over the Lashana Lynch 007, and that permeates. Jeff brings up an excellent point that the reason we're all connected is because of our passion for Bond. Now, if you meet 30 people on a trip, maybe you will really become friends with 5 of them. That's when you can say, I know so-and-so. I know them well. We've drank together. They've stayed at my house. We've played golf. But I think the common denominator that brings us all together is 007. And I think people just need to, to understand that everyone's different, but everyone still has something to offer, even if it's someone whose opinions you may not agree with. I think you can learn and take something from every opinion that's out there. I think that's important to remember because, I mean, the closer we get, and this is really kind of the worst period of Bond, is the hurry up and wait. It's the last 6 months. And again, I mean, you know, I just got a little tag today that, you know, the post I put out about the Maverick trailer, you know, saying, and then someone commented, and that's something I didn't know. They said, oh, you know, it was scheduled for release earlier, but production had to be pushed back. So I didn't know that. It was just off the top of my head. I'm like, wow, Maverick 2020, you know, a year and something away. We're 9 months from Bond. No teaser poster, no trailer, no title. It's the worst time because we're all just chomping at the bit for something that's next. So I think that the closer you get and the more you want, that's when the Bond community gets a little impatient. And when someone gets impatient, you know, they can be a little, you know, a little nervy. So, yeah.
It's interesting. You guys almost bring up a theme collectively, even though you're saying kind of different things. It's all under the fact that I really feel like Bond for all of us is a little bit of wonderful therapy and escapism, whether we're doing it face to face or we're doing it at home or we're doing it through collecting. It's become, unfortunately, divisive. It used to be that, you know, politics and religion, you would never bring those up at a party. Now it's like, in some cases, you're afraid to bring up Bond. And it's like, no, that was our escape when I'm stressed out and pulling out my hair.
Yeah.
But it's an important thing, and I love your attitudes that at the end of the day, instead of giving each other a black eye, get to know each other. And I know face to face, like Jeff was talking about, there's nothing better. I mean, you walk away really, excuse this, bonding in a big way. All right, here we go. Murray, this one's to you first.
Yeah.
All right, you get a call. It's somebody from Eon that says, Murray, for you and Jeff, we want to create a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And it's your magic wand. It's whatever you want to do to really put James Bond Canada on the map. What is that experience?
Well, I think first would be an interview with Barbara and Michael. A straight-on interview, and taking it back right to what I call the first of the Canadian connections in the Bond series. I don't know how truthful it is, but I've always thought that, you know, being part of the Commonwealth, like Australia and New Zealand, that in the early days you could really see an affinity for Canadian connections in the Bond movies, right? I call it the From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball trifecta, right? Where the opening scene of From Russia with Love has Kronstein playing against McAdams from Canada, with the old British ensign Canadian flag in the background. Goldfinger when, you know, Connery wakes up and asks Pussy where he is and says, well, you're 30,000 feet over Newfoundland. And then finally in Thunderball when they're about to send him to Station C, Canada, before he heads off to the Bahamas. So I'd really like to get a one-on-one interview with Barbara and Michael, and also then really talk to them a lot about, I think, well, as a Canadian, certainly one of our sort of proudest moments, the ski jump opening sequence from Spy Who Loved Me up in Baffin Island, Northwest Territories. I always thought to myself that that was an incredibly risky, important stunt. You know, the fact that, you know, Albert was on his own for Spy, so it really had to be something really, really big. And I remember watching when they released the 50th anniversary DVD, and they had the little trailer of all the little snippets. Mm-hmm. And the last scene in that little montage was the ski jump off Baffin Island.
Wow. So
I would say that experience, because again, it's not like, you know, I believe, Jeff, I think you were in Japan, and David, I think you might have been as well, where they had filmed You Only Live Twice, and there's like the little Bond plaque in the village. Obviously, you can't do that in the frozen tundra of Canada, no matter. I don't know how much helicopter tours would really, you know, make it up there. So it's not like you can mark it off. But yeah, I'd really like to discuss that with Michael and Barbara, and have a sort of Canadian experience, and maybe go up there and see what that jump looked like. And then, you know, talk about other plans for, let's say, maybe filming in Canada for a Bond movie, and really, you know, kind of showing Canadians that Bond is immersed in the series and really hard-footed, even up until, like, you know, the new stuff at the end of, I'm going to have a Bond brain fart, boys. Help me out. Is it
Quantum of Solace?
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
At the end of at the Quantum when he meets Corinne, right, and says Canadian Secret Service. So it's still there. Hopefully there'll be more. That would be my Eon Canadian experience.
That's great representation. Jeff, you get the call now.
Great. So Murray took them all. No, like logistically, it would be a nightmare to do it, but to actually put Bond Canada on the map, to somehow plan a helicopter trip up to Baffin Island in the province of, or the territory of Nunavut, to go see where the jump was taken. Maybe land on there, plant the flag, like Murray said. No one will ever see it, but we could go do that.
We'll all freeze up there and die.
And then I guess beyond, we were pretty close that Bond 25 had a shot to be filmed in Canada. And then I think if that would have occurred, we may have got a Canadian premiere, or at least some kind of a small version of it. So that would have been, and then again, we have such a big country, you have to pick a city, or everybody might think Toronto, but they probably would have filmed it in Alberta, most likely. So then who knows where the premiere would have been, if it would have been in Calgary or Edmonton or something like that. So that'd be pretty cool, because I know there's been premieres in New York City and LA before, but nothing at a huge scale in Canada ever, even though little cities like Norway and not countries like Norway get a premiere sometimes, or France gets a premiere in Paris, but Canada doesn't ever get a premiere really. We got to fly to New York or LA or something like that. So that'd be pretty cool if we could ever see something like that. I know Murray and I tried to put on, what was it going to be, Murray, the 40th anniversary of The Spy Loved Me?
We had talked about it, and we had a venue booked in Toronto. It's the TIFF Bell Lightbox. So they hold the festival, and we had a date held because it was sort of, the dog days of summer, and we wanted to promote the 40th anniversary of Spy because it was the only Bond film done in Canada. And then unfortunately later that summer, Roger passed. Yeah, right. And so before that affected a lot of that, because then there were tribute screenings. So, which is why we weren't able to get the rights from Park Circus to do the screening, because we had Bond girls who were going to come. Rick Sylvester was going to come with the parachute, and and plus we had pitched it, did we not, Jeff? As we wanted to have it sponsored by the UK consul, because they've done a lot of parties and premieres, and we also wanted it to let's say 50% of the proceeds, we wanted to make this a charity benefit and give the money to UNICEF. Wasn't that our...
That's right. And also with Parks Canada, like our national parks, because that's where the jump takes place. So we wanted them to be involved as well. So,
because a lot of people don't know that yes, it's up in Baffin Island, and it, formerly Northwest Territories, now Nunavut, but that whole section is actually in one of Canada's national parks, which is, if you watch carefully and you watch the credits of Spy Who Loved Me, in the thanking, swimwear by Gotex, etc., there'll be a thank you in there to Parks Canada.
Yeah. You guys actually, I've heard some outlandish ones about that Eon phone call. That's actually all sounds doable. That sounds like it could be a reality. I'm impressed. All right. So Jeff, this next one's going to be to you first, but Murray, you're going to follow up too. And it's really about the tenets of influencers and influencer marketing. And everybody probably appropriately and in a humble way should wince when they go, influencer. But you guys are. In our corner of the world of Bond communities, James Bond Canada, Jeff Wybo, Murray Gillespie, people know you. So Jeff, tell us about that first time that you realized, holy cow, people in the Bond community know Jeff Wybo and James Bond Canada. What happened?
Well, there's some very interesting moments that recently happened. Obviously, I was working hard, but it's our passion, so it's not that hard for me to document it. And I enjoy documenting throughout my day, and I study this stuff. I stay up late. So then if you just put on the James Bond hat is all I really try to do. For example, I might show you the inside of a house for real estate. Now I'm showing you the inside of a bull ring for On a Matter of Secret Service. And I can, everyone's just taking some stilled images, or they're going live on Facebook or something. I'm doing that quick Instagram and doing the Jeff Wybo flair to it. And what you're saying, that little aha moment, there was just random guys from Scotland, from England that I hadn't met. And my wife will, if she hadn't seen this so much in real estate, she would have rolled her eyes even more. But they walk up to me on Peace Gloria being like, "You're Jeff Wybo. Oh my God, your content was amazing." Because that's all I've really tried to do is put whoever wasn't there, especially during the Portugal portion or something like that, but follow my journey and you're going to see everything that we did. And I love, David, you had called me after and you said, or you were on the Facebook Live or Instagram Live saying, if you guys don't think this is work, it's work. And it is work. It's a lot of stuff to do. I'm not saying everybody can do it. I have other practice to how to do it. But it's been really rewarding to have all these guys come up to me and be like, oh my God, your content was amazing. And yeah, I don't think that's really been said too much in any beyond your YouTube channel, David, in the last 5-6 years, like who was really in depth producing this content. People do articles on their websites, but to be right in the trenches, like, can you imagine on the next premiere, we're posting as we're walking down the red carpet, if that's even possible, or are you going to be like, okay, no, I need to enjoy this moment myself. So there's always these things, but it's been fun to have people. I've been connecting with other people across the world because of this, and it's that's what it's all about. So
that's fantastic.
And like you said earlier, it's just authentic. I don't want it to be too polished either. It's just what it is. So
agreed. Murray?
Well, there were sort of two really, I think, pivotal moments for me. One was basically feeling a turn of the tides, having been dealing, let's say, since before Casino Royale, when Sony still had its distribution agreement. And as the 50th anniversary of Bond was approaching, I reached out to MGM because I thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we could have a little, Bond film festival? And could I find a venue here in Vancouver where I could get a few display cases, put up a few posters, et cetera, et cetera? All of that eventually did come to fruition. And in 2013, here at the Vancouver Film Festival, we did a huge Bond Film Festival, as well as a 2-week exhibit of most of my collection. But the funny thing was, when I reached out to MGM, of course, they alluded to the fact that there was going to be a lot of stuff going on for Bond 50. Wouldn't tell me what. And finally, I got a call from someone at Eon Productions. And when I got that first call, the fact that I was even on the radar of Eon, it really was a turn of the tides, because I vividly remember being 12 or 13 years old in my hometown of Ottawa and, hearing on CFRA radio that, there was a premiere of A View to a Kill, and I would call up. And the scales tipped in my favor, and eventually it was, a random call in the middle of the afternoon from Sony saying, hey, Murray, you're hosting the local premiere of Spectre at this theater on this day. Here are your 20 T-shirts to give away. Here are your 10 passes to give away to your followers. We're going to do a live this. Oh, you're doing a segment with Entertainment Tonight. You've got global TV booked for this. You've got an interview with the Baltimore Herald. And just all this stuff that, for a Bond fan, you always hope to do, but never imagine it coming true. I think it would be very similar to, being a low-key actor in a sleeper hit, and suddenly you're a famous, suddenly you're on Letterman, and suddenly you're everywhere, right? So that still, it keeps me humble. It really does, because once you're vetted, once they know that James Bond Canada is legit, they've got two great people behind it, driving the force of influencer marketing, putting together original content, and you don't have to reach out. They reach out to you instead. You kind of know you've made it.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful feeling. I think Jeff would probably feel the same way.
I'll tell you what, guys, it's a reason why I wanted you on this Bond community interview is your unique content is unique. And the fact that I call it relevancy, that you become relevant to the distributorships, to the companies, to Eon enough that, Murray, you just, were invited to the Secret Cinema event and for 2 days of Bond influencer activities. Jeff, you've rubbed elbows with celebrities, but in addition to that, you were invited to New York City to go to some of the brands, represent Canada, and then go to Spyscape and walk around with Meg Simmons. I mean, those things happen because of your work, but it doesn't happen because you're reposting an article. It happens because you're creating content that people want to engage on. The reason whoever's watching this interview right now, a week after we do it, they're curious about you, and they're curious because they've probably seen something that you've done and say, I want to get to know these people a little bit better. So those are great stories. I appreciate that. Really.
And you know what's funny that you mentioned, and I think I texted Jeff the moment he posted the picture, because I really like sharing what I have. I'm a real giver in that way. I'll never hold back a contact or a tidbit of information as long as it's not under moratorium until a certain press release. But he was able to meet Meg Simmons, and for those of you who don't know, Meg Simmons is archive director for Eon Productions. And back in 2012, when I got that first call from Eon, it was Meg who called me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm extremely proud that we have all that unique content and we're not just regurgitating some, and our stuff will never go necessarily viral because it's so unique and so niched that it's only going to, gain the 100, 200, 300 fans. But those are 300 people that are watching. So that's what I like. So
until you get that interview with Barbara and Michael.
It's coming.
You get Michael, I get Babs.
All right, guys. So here we go. We've talked a lot about you, Canada, your wishes. I don't know if you heard, there's a little movie coming out in April 2020 called Bond 25. I don't know if you've heard the rumors. And by the way, I say that sort of in jest because I think you both agree. Sometimes we have so much fun just engaging with friends like us that you almost forget, like, oh, that's right, there's a movie involved somewhere down the line. But you only have 2 wishes that can come true. What do you wish for Bond 25? Who wants to take this first one?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, wishes.
I'm going to let the young buck go first.
Well, I think it'll be Bond 25 and to Bond 26. So the first one is, I really hope that they have some way to bridge it into Bond 26 at the end of Bond 25, and we're not just in a 5-year cliffhanger again after that, because we kind of know somewhat what's kind of going on right now if we've heard the rumors. So that would be hopefully he gets his 00 license back and life is good, or is it going to be a typical, or not typical necessarily, but a typical Daniel Craig movie where, it doesn't end like a Roger Moore movie would end for Roger Moore. So I hope they have a master plan. I don't know. Maybe they have this giant whiteboard at Eon Productions and they know how they're finishing Bond 25. But judging how we don't have a title, who knows? So I hope that the smarter people have a better plan than I do on how to continue on the series, because that's what we love. We love James Bond movies, not necessarily 007 movies. We love the character James Bond. And I think for the Craig series and this one, hopefully we get to see with the writing that he has a bit more fun and more humor involved in this. And I just recently, on Top of the Mountain at Pete's Gloria, had dinner with Vic Armstrong, and what he really enjoyed about the older movies that he was involved in was there'd be those action sequences, but then which were serious, but then he throws in all that comedy. And I think in certain areas it was good in the Craig movies, but I think it could still be a little bit improved on, that we're getting a bit more, we're having fun at the cinema. We're not just there, because that's what the James Bond movies, the movies were always about, was having a bit of fun, not necessarily, but they bounce back and forth from serious to funny to serious to funny. So there you go. Murray?
Love it.
Well, it's funny. I've actually sort of been thinking about that lately, and the sort of, Craig 4, right? And they have had a little bit of a serious tone. I think what I wish is just that the script and the screenplay are top-notch. I really hope that it doesn't lose something in translation, because, a lot of people thought the end of Spectre was a little Disney-esque, Bond driving off in the sunset in the Aston with the girl, right? So I don't think it's going to be like Skyfall. I don't think it's going to have that punch, let's say, of Casino Royale, like just, whoa, this is so new, 00 license, like, starting fresh. I have a feeling that it's going to be a lot more plot driven and a real spy burn thriller, like, shades of Spectre. So I hope really that just the quality of the writing, the screenplay, and the script really, make it I just, like a book you can't put down, like a movie you just want to see again and again and again because it's so damn good. That's the first thing. And yeah, I think Jeff has a great point that I hope that they leave a little bit of a door open, but also don't close too many doors to see where Bond 26 goes, whether that's with a new person playing the 007 role, whether, whether Craig just is enjoying himself so much that he wants to keep going. Who knows? But you need 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future, but you also don't want to piss on today.
I like that. That should be like a T-shirt or a meme.
Well, I don't know. I think my granddad, or that's like with the old guy last, because I think my granddad used to say that. He's like, if you keep 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future, you piss on today. And I'm like, oh, okay. I get
That's James Bond Canada's motto now. Right?
Yeah.
Totally.
You guys needed a good tagline.
There should be a scroll at the bottom.
Giveaway. First comment down below.
Exactly. He is. He's the master. I'm telling you. Social media. All right. So speaking of James Bond Canada, taglines and logos aside, this is the big question. So let me set it up a little bit. And I'm going to set it up from kind of my point of view first. One of the things that I've thoroughly enjoyed the last few years, but probably mostly even in the last 6 months about James Bond Canada, is because you guys have evolved significantly. I'm not just talking about your followers or, who's connecting to you. I'm not even talking about just your channels. You guys do locations. You do celebrity moments. You're doing brand moments now. You're doing movie moments. You do literary. You do the past. You do the future. You bring youth. You bring experience. You have seriously become one of those influencer marketing groups that kind of has the whole ball of wax. You're not like the literary Bond guys or the brand guy. You're kind of wrapping it all together. So my big question, and Jeff, we're going to start with you. Murray, you're going to bring it home, is what can we expect from James Bond Canada in the future? What's the vision?
Oh, I'm exhausted just hearing all those things we have to cover.
But you do.
I know we do. I don't know why, but we like to be the ambassador of Canada. So obviously there's so many Bond things out there, which is just fun for us to go do. And what can we expect in the future? Well, obviously more great coverage. I think Murray might speak on this, but Murray and I are going to do a little bit more of these kind of interviews for our YouTube channel, which I think will bring a lot of people are going to start getting to know us better. We're not trying to copy anybody else in the Bond community. We're just going to have chats. We might have other guests on, that kind of stuff. Trying to find the time within any of our busy lives to do this free hobby of ours. It's a lot of fun to do this, and hopefully people are enjoying it. And because it's like you, David, it takes a lot of work to put out these YouTube videos and all that. So, and we hope people are enjoying the content. We're not looking for money. We're not looking for sponsorships or anything. Just our fun of Bond, really. So, but sponsorships are welcomed. So, yeah.
Especially because we need to print.
Yeah, exactly. So, Mary.
I think Jeff hit the nail on the head there. One thing you're going to see from James Bond Canada moving forward in the future is a lot more collaboration between Jeff and I. Jeff is well known. He's traveled. He's been to a lot of the events. I'm glad I was able to get over to London for Secret Cinema. And there's going to be a lot more events coming up as we get closer to the next Bond movie. We all know that that's happened, whether it's an unveiling at the Omega store in New York for the new watch that he's going to wear, or, Huawei is going to, this is the new Bond 25 phone. So there's going to be a lot more stuff coming. But Jeff and I are going to try to at least, I would say once a month, Jeff and I are going to try and get on a split screen on YouTube together, because people know me. People know Jeff. I think this might be one of the first times I've ever seen the two of us together. We're kind of like that Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson thing, that they weren't sure if two people existed until you actually saw them together at the Grammys. So that's one thing you're going to.
Why did you use that example?
I don't know.
I'm too young for that.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to recapture my youth, and I'm just thinking, if I wait, I can turn myself into Jeff any second. Just the bald spot and just cover that up. So I think collaboration between Jeff and I is one thing that we're really going to do.
And
thing, go ahead.
Yeah, Murray and I were talking too. Hopefully, we're going to say this, but we're going to bring out some more Canadian unique content that will definitely not go viral. But certain things that happened in Ottawa, like Murray knows about from the '80s. Like we're going to be posting this content that Eon probably doesn't even know about or remember. So, and Murray probably knows.
Well, Jeff, I love what you did with the James Bond complex, for example. Kind of wrapping more people together. It used to be that, a lot of these groups were so siloed and they kind of did their own things. And I think everybody's becoming a little bit more collaborative, both inside and out.
So if you guys don't know, James Bond Complex does a podcast, and they're out of Montreal, and they're really great guys. I flew out to Montreal to help them out and gave a talk for Comic-Con. I had a blast doing that and talking Bond with them. And they're from Quebec. So, Murray, I don't even know if I told you this, but they kind of want to be somewhat dubbed Q Branch. So, for James Bond Canada.
That'd be amazing. I had said to Jeff too, and people sort of recognize Canada as obviously being a dual language market. I was very lucky, and I grew up in Ottawa, so I speak French as well. So we're maybe going to try to work with them a little bit more and maybe create some bilingual French content for other Canadian French fans. We can certainly ask them to join us and be part of our resources. But it's lucky that I've got the French under my belt. So we're going to do that. Working on a new Canadian content story right now that's going to be up on our website soon, as it relates to some more sponsorship from The Spy Who Loved Me. And I think what I'm going to do as well is slowly start pulling out all of the things that I've been collecting for the last 30 years. And Jeff and I are going to collaborate on it, but I'll be like, okay, here, I've got this. This is what this is. This is what it meant. And I'm going to leave Jeff to sort of, turn that into something, modern and fun. One of these days, Jeff, I need to fly out to Vancouver and spend a few days here in my apartment so I can show him this entire collection.
Yeah, definitely. But what I really need is David's audience to hold Murray accountable so he does this, because he's got all this stuff, but it's finding the time to do it so that I can post it on social.
It's so true. So true.
Yeah, I always have a saying that I've used in business as well as my personal life. When I hear that somebody's too busy, I don't believe that somebody's too busy. I think you prioritize something over that thing. So it's prioritization. It's not that you're too busy.
Don't pay your rent, Murray. Get this Bond content out. Come on.
All right. Yeah. So.
You live in a country that'll take care of you. Don't worry.
Free healthcare.
Someone, I don't know what it was. I was watching something and they were talking about, hey, well, you guys have free healthcare. Of course, you wouldn't, I was like, yeah, it's true.
Well, guys, I'll tell you what, you hit on the nail. I mean, there's going to be a series of events coming up. I suspect highly that October is going to be the beginning of the inertia that we're all carried into, and we're going to be hanging a lot in person. I want to do more things with you guys. You're so much fun to be around. First of all, thank you so much for spending your time today for doing this. We're going to put down links and all that information because they're like everywhere. But guys, thanks so much for being on here today. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
We really respect and admire what you do in the Bond community, and to be shoulder to shoulder or on a split screen with you it's a great thing for Jeff and I. We're really, really thankful and very happy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. All right, folks. That's been us, Jeff Wybo and Murray Gillespie from James Bond Canada. I'm David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience, and we will see you real soon. Take care. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond Experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.